Welcome back. I'm Amanda with Healthy House on the Block, and I'm here with our weekly video and tip on creating an indoor space that truly supports your health and your wellness. I am a building biology practitioner and healthy home expert, but I am also a certified home inspector. Locally here in the Twin Cities, I do home inspections for buyers and sellers when they're going to either purchase a home or sell their current home. So this week, I wanted to share with you how to go about hiring a good home inspector. How do you find this person? What questions do you need to ask? I even have a download for you that will be a little checklist that you can use each time you call and interview a home inspector before you have your accepted offer on your home. This is a really good way to be ahead of the curve. You can have everything lined up so that when you have that accepted offer, you can hit the ground running. Call the home inspector that you have found that is going to work best for your family and find out everything you need to know about the home you're about to buy. So, a list of questions to ask during a home inspection is one of the most helpful things you can take with you. We all know that the journey of purchasing a new home is full of excitement, but it can also be really overwhelming and it can leave you with some apprehensive feelings. So this is the exact reason why I encourage all my buyers to walk with me the entire inspection and dig through the home systems together. When I meet with buyers at their inspection, I can see that these feelings we are talking about are in full force. And with a home inspection checklist of questions to ask, we can begin putting their mind at ease as we walk through the house. So the truth is, most things about a house are completely fixable. It's more about how much you're willing to spend and how much you're willing to maintain these areas. So for many, this is a really welcomed insight, but they would have never known this if they hadn't used the questions that I'm going to give you to ask. So knowing what question to ask when determining if this is the right house is critical. And that's why I'm sharing the best questions that you can ask your own home inspector at the time of your home inspection. And if you're about to hire a home inspector, maybe you haven't found someone yet, I would strongly encourage you to take advantage of my free download that will help you hire the right home inspector. I don't want you to make any calls without using this worksheet. It will save you from hiring the wrong inspector, and instead you'll get a top-notch inspector and a really great report to help you as you purchase your home. So let's just dive into this list of questions. We're going to talk about the exterior first. So the first thing we're going to talk about is grading. You want to ask if the grading on the house is negative. You want positive grading around the home to ensure that water is flowing away from the house at all times. You can ask your inspector how to prevent negative grading in the future on your particular house because it will be different with each house that you look at. We're also going to look at the foundation. So ask if the foundation has any known cracking. You'll want to ask if the cracking is horizontal or vertical or step cracks. And this is going to let your inspector know that you are very knowledgeable about what you're looking for. Ask your inspector to discuss the severity as well as the prevention of more severe cracking in the future. You can also ask if the foundation has evidence of high moisture. Most inspectors will use a moisture meter to detect if the moisture levels of any foundation block or foundation concrete are high. So be sure to ask if the inspector can detect any reason the foundation may have high moisture and if there could be future problems. You'll also want to ask if there's any evidence of previous repairs or maybe previous mud jacking. This can indicate water or drainage issues with the home that could be potential problems in the future. Next, we're going to look at siding and trim. You'll want to ask your inspector about any maintenance that might be needed on your particular siding and trim in the future. You'll also want to ask about what to watch for in terms of moisture getting behind the siding and then how to prevent this potential problem in the future. So moving on to the roof, ask your inspector their estimation on the age of the roof as well as the life expectancy of the roof. You can also ask your inspector about gutters and get their opinion if the gutters on the home are adequate or if they should be modified or added in any spot. And then the driveway. We often forget that this is part of a home, and you can ask your inspector different questions about it because it is a high expense item, even though it's not in or on your house. So ask if the driveway will need continued maintenance, and if so, what it is, how often. Some concrete will need repairs, and asphalt generally needs to be resealed every few years. You can also ask about settling, especially next to the garage door and the garage apron. Significant settling can mean quite a bit of maintenance in the future years. So moving on to the garage, you want to ask if it has a proper firewall installed and if there are any breaks in that firewall. This is usually considered a safety issue if it's not installed correctly or if it is damaged. You will also want to ask if the overhead door has sensors and an automatic reverse feature. These are safety points that most inspectors will check and fill you in on. You can also ask your inspector about his or her opinion on the garage apron. This area on a home can be quite problematic and it shifts and settles over time, which is very normal, but you'll want to get your inspector's opinion on future maintenance of this area. And then finally, ask about the condition of the torsion springs and the garage roller track. These are on the garage door itself, and you can get a good idea of future maintenance as well as potential costs if it is at the end of its lifespan. So if we're going to continue on, we'll go to the inside of the house and we'll talk about the interior. So looking at walls and ceilings, ask about any cracks that you notice in the ceilings or the walls. And you want to pay special attention to cracks that are around windows and doors. And you want to verify that these cracks are merely cosmetic in nature. Another thing to consider is asking your inspector about the use of lead paint. So if you are purchasing a home that is older than 1978, definitely ask your inspector about how lead paint can affect any future renovations in your house. And then we'll move on to flooring. So ask your inspector if there's any asbestos tiles throughout the home and how you should remove them or how you should cover them up. If you're purchasing a home that is older and you're hoping for a particular flooring, ask your inspector their opinion on if the flooring has been covered up, how strong the subfloor is, and then also if any support will need to be added. When you're looking at windows and doors, it's very important to ask your inspector if there's any evidence of window seals being broken, and if so, ask to have an estimate on cost replacement. They may or may not be able to give you a very exact quote, but it will give you an idea. You can also ask if there's any evidence of condensation or sweating issues with the windows, and ask if there's a tip for reducing this in the particular home that you are looking at. And then finally, with windows and doors, ask if any doors are out of alignment or if they will not open and close properly. And then also ask if this is due to poor installation or perhaps major settling or indoor climate changes. So the next section is going to be all of the systems in the home. We're going to start with plumbing. So you can ask the inspector if they notice any lead piping or evidence of lead solder in the pipes. So it's okay to ask if your inspector takes a water sample as well to verify that there's no lead in water. Most inspectors will offer this, but if they don't, you can always take a sample and get a lead test strip off of Amazon. You can also ask your inspector if they come across any evidence of previous leaks from plumbing supplies or water lines throughout the home. This is important to know because we want to A, make sure the leak is taken care of, and B, make sure that those areas are not damaged and have been dried out. You will also want to ask if there's any corrosion on supply lines and what the time frame is on replacing these corroded valves. So next is electrical, and this is a big area of the home, and a lot of times we probably have the most questions about this area because we don't understand it as much as maybe an electrician, which is very normal. So first, ask your inspector what the capacity of the electrical service is and if it's sufficient for modern electronic use. Obviously, this is a question that would be more important in an older home. You'll also want to ask if the electrical lines are aluminum or copper. Again, this is going to be a better question for an older home, maybe built around the 1970s. Some insurance companies require a home's electrical line to be changed over to copper in order to have that insured. And again, with old homes, if you are purchasing an older home, verify that there is no knob and tube wiring in places like attics and that the home does in fact have circuits and not fuses. You also want to verify that there are carbon monoxide detectors in every level of the home, as well as smoke detectors on every level and in bedrooms. You will also want to make sure that they will be left at the property. Some carbon monoxide detectors are plugs in walls and they can be taken with by the seller. So just verify these things with your inspector. So moving on to the HVAC unit. Obviously, ask about the age of the furnace or boiler and be sure to ask about maintenance to prolong the life. You will also want to ask if there's adequate venting to the entire house, especially in the basement and the crawl space if there is one. Okay, so the final area is kind of these unseen spaces, attics, basements, crawl spaces. So doing the attic first, ask your inspector about the insulation in the attic and if they feel it's sufficient for a home of that particular size. You will also want to verify that the insulation in the attic does not contain asbestos and that it doesn't have rodent tracks through it or anything like that. You can also ask what type of venting your attic has, as well as if it's adequate for the size and layout of the attic. So there are different types of vents. Some are passive vents, some have fans. Just ask your inspector to verify what they are. And then finally, verify that there's no mold on the sheathing, trusses, or insulation within the attic space. Moving on to the basement or crawl space, if your home has one, you'll want to ask your inspector if there are any signs of water damage or potential moisture intrusion in the basement. So basically any leaks. We want as much information as possible when it comes to moisture and water in these areas. So ask for details on how to prevent it in the future. You will also want to verify that there's no evidence of mold anywhere in the basement or crawl space. This is something we want to prevent at all costs. And then finally, pests and rodents. So ask your inspector if there is any evidence of termites or wood-boring insects, either past or present. And if there have been termites, be sure to ask cost for repairs and removing things. And then you'll also want to ask if there's evidence of rodents, especially in attics or basements, that would indicate a problem. Also ask your inspector about preventing this problem in the future. So moving on, any issues that arise during the inspection or anything that your inspector flags for you should give signal for you to ask a series of questions about the issue. So one thing homeowners must understand is any issue that arises truly is fixable. The thing you must know is how much it will cost and what kind of upkeep is really involved. So these questions I'm going to go through will help shed light on those things and get you the answers you need. So first, would you get this issue fixed right away? If not, when should I have it repaired or fixed? Number 2, do you think I could fix this issue myself? Number 3, what could happen if this problem isn't repaired? Number 4, what do you anticipate the cost of repairing this issue might be? And then finally, will the problem keep returning or is this a long-term solution? So these questions will help you And then also questions you want to ask are questions about maintenance. One of the great perks of having a home inspection is that you're basically getting a 101 lesson on your new home. An inspector should be able to tell you how to take care of your house and how to prevent issues. The key is asking questions about the systems you're unsure about. So if you are a first-time homeowner, you may have more questions than maybe someone who's downsizing from a single-family home to, say, a townhouse. Inspectors generally love giving information and answering questions about a house, so never feel like you're bothering them or feel silly about the questions you're asking. These 3 questions are great when you are asking about the maintenance of a system. How do I maintain it? How does it work? How do I operate it? And what is the life expectancy of this system? So honestly, whether you're just jumping into the world of house hunting or you're ready to buy and take advantage of this home inspection question checklist that I have for you, you'll gain insight and knowledge about your home that may have otherwise been missed information shared. Thank you so much for being here. If you found anything in this video helpful, I hope you will like the video and follow me, because I am here every single week with new advice and new tips on creating an indoor space that truly supports your health and your wellness.